cells, as and when we need to call them. So my first batch of guests are Dr. Ni Odate Lamte, seated next to me. He's the internal medicine. He's at the internal medicine unit of the renal unit of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Or he's an internist, if I should put it that way. And seated next to him is Mrs. Lillian Agbeku. She is a patient who has been managing chronic kidney disease for some time. She is a teacher at the Kwabenya SHS and also a mother of two. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to our studios.
Thank you.
All right, so before we even delve into chronic kidney diseases, I would want you to probably enlighten my public on what the organ is, the organ kidney. What does it do? What's the function in the body?
Okay, the kidney is being shaped like everyone talks about. It's not too big. It weighs less than 5 grams. And it has basic but profound functions for the body. And the basic functions include removal of waste from our body. That is, when you eat or take certain medications, it is through the kidneys that it makes it, you urinate out. What it also does is to control our blood pressure. So if your blood pressure is low, your kidneys sort of asks your body to retain more water, and by so doing, it increases your blood pressure. It also helps make what we call hemoglobin or blood. So the kidney produces something we call erythropoietin, and what that thing does is to tell your body, help generate more red blood cells and increasing your blood level. What the kidney also does is to excrete, like I said, water. So you tend to get things like people getting very big or getting swollen body because of this. And like I said, the kidney also helps build up blood. So if you have kidney failure, then you begin to get symptoms that shows that your blood level is low. So those are some of the basic functions of the kidneys.
So I understand when the kidney is failing, it's undetected until it's failed. How true is that?
That is very true. If you take the kidney function, we would put it as, say, if you're born with 100% function. So as you grow, some of the function declines. But when you say someone has chronic kidney disease, then it means this person has about 60% of the kidney function sustained for about 3 months. That is when we say someone has chronic kidney disease. And with this estimation, categorizes these groups into 5 groups. So we have the stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, stage 5. Stage 5 is when we say someone has end-stage kidney failure, or someone requires dialysis or transplant. But because it's 100%, like I was saying, as your kidney function declines, because there are 2 also, one helps balance the function. So it happens this way till it gets to a point where the function drops below 15. Then you begin to, some people even 30, then they're beginning to get, their legs become swollen, like I said, by bipedal edema. And then because they're not able to make the thing required to produce more blood, they tend to get something like they get very tired easily when they walk very short distance. Then we get what we call anemia. Also, because of the waste that are in the body, these people tend to get have difficulty sleeping. They have itchiness because the waste have built up in their body. So those are some of the symptoms also that somebody who has chronic kidney disease or who are going or moving towards end-stage kidney disease experiences.
So it is possible that there are a lot of people walking around with some decline in the function of their kidneys without knowing. It is possible, right?
Yes, there are lots of people. And I remember one time there was this young man we met at the clinic. He had just gotten married, I think about 6 months. He was known to have hypertension. And because people have the notion that hypertensive drugs causes your decreases your manhood, so he didn't take the medication. The next time he realized, he went to the clinic because his feet has gotten swollen, and then only to be diagnosed that he has kidney disease.
Wow. Mrs. Agbeku, I empathize with you for your condition, but just tell us, at what point in your life did you notice that you have, or were you diagnosed of the disease?
Okay. That was in 99.
Wow.
I had a miscarriage at 5 months. And after the babies came out, it was a twin pregnancy. The placenta couldn't come out, so it had to be removed manually. And after that, I realized I bled a lot. And for 3 days, I couldn't pass urine. But because of the pain, I did not even take notice of it. It was on the 3rd day that I realized I had not passed urine. So I told the doctor, and then he sent me to Kolebu. He referred me to Kolebu. Yes.
So it was from their checks that you were told you had chronic kidney disease, or
at that time it was not chronic.
Okay.
They said it was acute.
Okay.
Yes.
And did you understand what it was then?
Well, they explained to me. I didn't really understand it at first, but it was explained to me. I was on the ward for about 1.5 months. So gradually the urine started coming. Yes. They told me for the acute one, it doesn't take too long. When you are managed well, you can get better. So I got better, went home, but I had another miscarriage the following year. Wow. And I had the problem all over again. And then after 6 years or so, yes, 6 years, I realized my feet were getting swollen. That was in 2007. So I reported to my doctor, and he referred me back to the medical block. Okay. Yes.
So if my calculations are right, you've had this disease for 22 years.
Yes, please.
Wow. How has this been? What kind of a toll has this had on your body? I will talk about the cost later, but the toll on your body, tell me.
It's really taken a toll on my body. The kind of things I used to do at first, I can't do it, especially now. When I started dialysis in 2011. I could walk long distances, wash, scrub, do everything. But this time, it is not like that. Yes, the things I can do have really gone down. And I walk a little, very short distances. I get tired, I'm out of breath. And the way I could sit up, I'm a teacher, so I sit up and mark and all that. At this time, it's not that easy. I still do it anyway. I'm lucky, I still do it, but not with the energy I had from the beginning.
Okay. So did you have any underlying disease that could have probably precipitated this chronic kidney disease? Because in Ghana they say it's hypertension. If you have hypertension or you have diabetes, that's a risk. Those are risk factors. So did you have any of those?
Initially my BP was low.
Okay.
But with time it went up. So maybe I could attribute it to the hypertension.
Okay.
But the main problem had to do with the miscarriage, where I lost a lot of blood. Yes.
Okay, so let me come to you, Dr. Neodati Lamte. Studies have indicated that we are having rising cases.
Yeah.
You are at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. How bad is this?
When we take, let me put a few statistics. All over the world, we have about 850 million people living with chronic kidney disease.
That's about a tenth of the global
and
population.
Then out of that, about 2.4 million die every year.
Wow.
If you take Kolebu, for instance, in a year, we look about 400 cases. And then we have, only in Accra, we have about 800 people on dialysis. So that is how bad the situation is.
I see. So then when they come, what are some of the services that they require?
Initially, I would just put our clinic is overbooked because It looks like Kulebu is the major facility where most cases are referred to. So when we get cases from the periphery or from the private hospitals, you come to the clinic, we see you. Those who require us to follow them on long-term basis, we do that. And then those who require dialysis, we begin to cancel them when it gets to the kidney failure stage, which is the stage 5. So once you're cancelled and we tell you about the cost involved, including the option of a transplant, then most families go to think about it and see whether they can sustain it. And then they come back to us, and then we continue with the treatment. Averagely, it will cost you about 4,000 cedis to sustain dialysis for a month.
Wow. So does that mean that, because you mentioned that the chronic kidney failure stage is the stage 5,
yes,
does that mean that when detected at the acute stage, medication cannot manage it? I mean, you can't attain a cure?
The acute is different from the chronic.
Okay.
Let me explain the acute a little bit. With the acute, there's an injury to the kidneys. So if properly managed, the kidney will get back to normal. Like for her condition, she had loss of blood, and then that caused the injury to the kidneys. Okay. And sometimes people get back to normal. Other times people end up in the chronic phase. So once you're in the chronic phase, it means that you're probably in any of the stages. And say, for instance, you're in stage 4 and you happen to get this injury all recurring again, it will sometimes take you down the stages and they could put you to stage 5. So with her losing a lot of blood caused her to go into some form of chronic stage 4 or stage 5, and then subsequently getting her to the failure stage. So when someone comes in with a kidney or chronic kidney disease in any of the stages apart from the stage 5, what we do is to cancel you, make sure your blood pressure is controlled. If you have diabetes, give you drugs, make sure your sugar is controlled, and then you follow up further so that we prevent you from or delay the progression from the stages to the failure stage. So basically that is what we do, advise you on things not to take, things to eat, and then you come maybe on a 3-monthly basis or 6-monthly basis where we review your kidney function and then manage you appropriately.
Mrs. Agbeko, when you were diagnosed of the acute kidney disease, what were some of the restrictions you were given?
I was asked not to take meat and fish beyond a certain quantity. Yes, when I went to the dietitians, they said I should take a matchbox size of meat.
In a day or in a week?
In a day, with one meal.
Okay.
So if I take maybe lunch, I can take one matchbox size. Supper too, the same thing.
Okay.
And then I was asked to look at my fruit intake. Something like orange, maybe half orange. And then the salt too, I was to check it. But apart from that.
So you were to minimize your fruit intake rather?
Yes, okay, please. And then the beans. It's not just beans, the plant protein. I was to check that one too. So beans, granules, agushi, yes.
Wow. And those are nutritious stuff.
Yes.
It's really, Doc, why is that? Why is she supposed to be off the nutritious food items?
Well, because the kidneys, when you break down protein to this, the kidney excretes it. Okay. So if you break in too much protein on a kidney that is already had a decline in function, it will put so much burden on the kidneys, and that will deteriorate faster. Also, some of the foods are high in phosphate. What the kidney does is to make sure your body absorbs calcium. And so when you have and then excrete this phosphate, if you have a decline in the kidney function, it's not able to excrete this phosphate well. And when that happens, and then your calcium also goes down, it tells your body to try and break down the bones so that you can absorb more calcium. And when these phosphate and the calcium accumulate in the body, they can accumulate in your joints, they can accumulate in your heart. So with that, you begin to get weak bones, and then you can have certain heart conditions as well. So these are the reasons when we tend to restrict people on certain foods
Okay. All right. So tell me, how many times have you had to go on dialysis in a week? Were you restricted on water intake as well?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'm supposed to take 750 ml of water every day.
Okay.
But even this time, I've tried to reduce it because sometimes my face becomes puffy and my legs a bit swollen. So I've tried to bring it down to 500.
Okay. So did family understand what you were going through? Did your students also understand? I mean, what course do you teach at school?
I teach home economics.
Okay.
So I teach food and nutrition, management in living, clothing and textiles.
So you probably found it quite surprising and intriguing that you should be diagnosed of kidney disease. I mean, you do nutrition, so you should know which food's best to take.
Yes, it has helped me. The knowledge has helped me a little. But I still have to talk to dietitians and others. And you asked how many times I go for dialysis? Twice.
Twice a week?
Yes. Initially, I was told to go 3 times, but because of the cost, I tried twice and it was okay. So I've been going twice in the week.
So did family understand what you were going through?
My children were not really old enough. It's this time that they are getting to understand. My husband understood, and he has been the main help all this while. Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about the cost involved in I mean, for 22 years you've been managing this. I can't begin to the quantum, I can't begin to imagine it. Can you tell us about it?
First of all, I'll say it's just by the grace of God, because it's not everyone who has had it like this. I've been at the unit for some time, and a lot of things go on there. People come, they are not able to survive within a month, 2 months, even some people just a few years. And but I have been lucky. And well, I'm sure it's the care they also give us there and the counseling. Every time I have a problem, I call a nurse or a doctor, and they're always ready to help. And that has also helped me. Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, having had this for about 22 years, I'm sure you must have also witnessed the kinds of transitions the renal unit has even gone through to this stage, now that transplants of kidneys are possible at Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Okay, so tell us about the treatment alternative there are, and possibly we can also talk about the transplant.
Okay, so when you get to the failure stage, we propose to you the transplant and then hemodialysis and then peritoneal dialysis. Currently in Ghana, we do hemodialysis and then some form of peritoneal dialysis. The hemodialysis is where we give you something we call a catheter that is put on your skin, or you do something we call a fistula. So what this does is to give access to your blood. It's just like you put a cannula on someone's arm when you go to the hospital. There is a bigger form where it's put on your neck or your thigh. And then this we connect to the machine, and as your blood flows to the dialysis machine, it cleans your body off the waste and then takes off some water. I know she mentioned that she's restricted to 750. One of the basic functions, like I said, is to excrete water. So if your kidneys are not working, or you get to the failure stage, it means that your renal output will decrease further. And when that happens, if you drink a lot of water, it accumulates in your body, and sometimes it gets into your lung. That is where sometimes you have difficulty in breathing. So we restrict the people to 750, which is just like the water you lose from your skin and this little you lose from your feces all put together. Then we restrict you to 750. So when you come to dialysis, we have your dry weight. And your dry weight is your normal weight that you can leave off dialysis. And then when you come, and then we measure your weight that you brought. If you brought an excess of 4 or 3 kilos, we assume that to be the water additional water that you brought. And we connect you to the machine and then take off this excess water. and then you continue with your usual or regular life.
Does it come with complications?
That sorry.
Does it come with complications? I mean, there are people who have been on dialysis and they probably pass out immediately. Some I've had instances where the patient died soon after dialysis.
Yes, there are complications as you are taking off the water. If, for instance, people who bring in large amount of water, when you come in that ways, and because you're ideally supposed to do 3 sessions of dialysis, and because people can afford, they do 2, but they are still unable to take this restriction. So these people tend to bring lots of water, and as more water is taken from your body over a long period, your heart weakens, and when that happens, sometimes you can have people with these sudden death on the machine. Sometimes people have cramps, and the cramps is also as a result of taking water and then balancing of what we call electrolytes, because the kidney is supposed to do all this job. So the machine tries to do all that, and by doing you get cramps, and then cramps as well. So those are some of the complications of just the dialysis on its own.
Okay, so knowing how expensive dialysis is and how frequently one needs to be on, the alternative is a kidney transplant.
Yes.
Tell us about it. What does it involve? I mean, getting a donor, it's much. Tell us about what it involves, and also, I know the team from UK came to Ghana. We did our first transplant.
Yes.
So tell us about it. I mean, whether after they left, we've had any opportunities to do a transplant on our own, and how are people responding to that?
The first transplant was successful, and the plan was to do more in the subsequent years, but COVID came and changed everything.
Okay.
So it means last year we've all been on the loop trying to protect ourselves against COVID, which affected the plan for the transplant. But we plan to start another one next year, where we begin to recruit people. The main challenge in Ghana is people getting donors, because the transplant you can either do from a cadaver, or we'll call someone who's dead, or a living donor. But in Ghana we don't do cadaver, and even with the living donor it has to be a relative. So once you bring your relative, the relative will have to meet the ethical committee. You have to know that the person is not doing it as a result of money. And then you go through the matching process, which takes a while, and then we do that. Concerning doing it, we're still going to partner with the people from the UK for a while before we start doing it independently.
But do we have the legal backing to do so? I mean, because some time back there was this organ transplant bill laid in Parliament. I don't know how far we have gone with that. But let me ask you, Mrs. Agbeku, I mean, you have been on dialysis, I suppose, for the past 22 years. Or less?
11.
Or less,
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, but how many years have you been on dialysis?
Almost 10 years.
Almost
I'll be 10 years
Okay.
next year, March.
Okay, so then can you tell me what was the one thing it cost your family? Because there are instances where people have had to run dry their savings, sell out their properties to still manage the condition. We thank God for grace, but how has it cost your family? And have you also considered having a transplant? You have your relatives around you.
Yes. It has really cost us a lot. But God being so good, we've had some help. My husband works with Vodafone, and they have been taking care of my bills right from day one. Yes, they have been very helpful. And
so have you considered a transplant? I mean,
yes, please, I have. But until recently, my donor was told that she cannot donate again. We started with the test, and the last one, the doctor realized that she had kidney stones.
Wow.
And so he asked me to look. This was just about 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
So he asked me to look for another donor. That is where the problem is.
Okay, doctor, I've got to be wrapping up with your badge, but she's saying her donor had kidney stones. I mean, does that mean that her donor could have had an impairment with her kidney functioning, or what? I mean, what does
exactly. When we are considering someone as a donor transplant, you have to go through various tests, including blood group, And all that we're trying to do is to prevent rejection. Rejection is when the living or the donor kidney is transplanted onto the recipient, and then the recipient rejects that kidney and then gets back to the original phase. So we do, in your body, it sees whatever is not part as foreign. So what we tend to do is to make sure the differences between you and the other person is reduced to the barest minimum. Also, you have to make sure once you have diabetes, you are not considered for transplant. Or the donor has diabetes, is not considered for transplant. And if your kidney function is below a certain limit, the donor is also not considered for transplant. So we do all this in trying to make sure that, and also with the donor, if one kidney is taken out, you're not at risk of developing kidney failure in future. So when they get to that point and we realize we will have to halt with that person so that you can look for another donor to begin the process all over again.
So it is possible for one to survive on one kidney?
Exactly, okay. It's possible to survive one kidney. All right.
Yes. So Mrs. Agbeko, yes. Now that you've had to look for another donor, with your arrangement with the previous donor, did you have to pay the person? Was there any form of compensation?
No.
Okay.
All I had to do was pay for her labs.
Okay.
Yes, but she's a cousin, so she willingly offered herself.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'll leave you with your final words. Can you tell us what you would probably want to see them? What are your final words?
Well, all I'll pray for is that people come to our aid, because it has not been easy. And for me, like I said, Vodafone has been helping with my bills. But my husband is going on retirement.
Also limit taking over-the-counter medications, like your friend took medicine and it worked for that person, so you're also going to the pharmacy to buy the same thing. All these are ways that we can protect our kidneys. And also we need philanthropists. We have First Sky supporting the dialysis unit, and we would like to have more people so that people can have access to dialysis and dialyze effectively. And to the families, to the patients, need your support and understanding. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Neodati Lamte. You are an internist with the renal units of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and Mrs. Lillian Agbeko. She has been a patient for 22 years. She's a mother of two and also a home economics teacher at the Kwabenya Senior High School. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, viewers, if you just tune in, we are discussing, or we are trying to find out whether chronic kidney disease is actually becoming a threat in our parts of the world, and how we can protect ourselves from going down the drain. We'll be back right after this break with a new badge to continue the discussion.
Good morning. It's a good morning, and we serve you breakfast.
Not just any breakfast.
Sizzling helping.
A la carte. And there's much more on offer on GTV Breakfast.
So what's your pleasure than Votras, yeah? At that time of the morning.
You want it served buffet style, complimentary breakfast?
On-site restaurant.
Or room service.
We've got you covered.
From Monday to Friday at 6 a.m.
With a trusted team.
So never skip breakfast.
On GTV Breakfast.
break, we were discussing with my guest, Dr. Ni Odate Lamte from the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and Mrs. Lillian Agbeko. Earlier on, she's a patient on the rising threats posed by chronic kidney disease in our country. I've been joined by Mr. Ebenezer Hinaku. He's the founder and president of Prime Life Kidney Foundation. He's seated to my far left, and seated next to him is Mr. Franklin Asari. He's also a renal nurse at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and they are here to continue with the discussion with us. Well, so earlier on, I engaged Dr. Ni Odate Lamte from Kolebu and Mrs. Lillian Agbeko, and they made a case for patients with chronic kidney diseases to be supported, and also for us as a population to take good care of ourselves and protect or prevent us from losing our kidney function. So let me start with you, Mr. Franklin Asari. I mean, you are at the units managing patients when they come in for dialysis or other forms of treatment. Can you tell us some of the reasons, or the reasons people come to the, let's say, for instance, someone may say that I went to take this herbal potion and then I started feeling this symptom and all that. What are some of the cases that are presented at the hospital?
Okay, thank you very much for having us. I've been at the dialysis unit for close to 9 years now. Okay. So at least I have seen the various conditions and people coming in and going out. We will say, as Dr. Lamte said, hypertension and diabetes have been at the forefront of the causes of the kidney failure in Ghana. But what we are seeing more is people going for herbal medication. Some people are abusing end-stage like these painkillers. Small time when their bodies are paining them, or they have come from the farm, they want to take some painkillers. And if you use these painkillers for a long time, they tend to damage your kidneys. And so these are all things that we have been seeing. And at times, as the patient was saying, some people, they tend to lose blood for one reason or the other, and they are not managed very well. Okay, so if you have all these things and you are not managed very well, or you don't go to the hospital, you may end up with chronic kidney failure. There are so many people who are living with chronic diseases or kidney diseases in the country, a lot. But because until you get close to the end stage, you may not have the symptoms. So people are working with it. So if you happen to maybe lose blood, or you have, let's say, diarrhea, that can quickly bring to the fore the hidden problem that we've already had. And most of the time, these are some of the cases that we see.
Okay, so Mr. Hinako, you are the founder of Prime Life Kidney Foundation.
Exactly.
What inspired the formation of this foundation?
Thank you once again for having us, and good afternoon to your cherished viewers as well. Actually, one thing that inspired me to come up with this NGO is that initially I went to, let's say, a day I went to the unit, and then I found out that there were one or two patients who were struggling to pay for their treatment. So personally, I did, but it got to a time I couldn't, and then I asked for help from a friend. He also helped me with it. But later we realized that this thing we are doing can't go further, and then we can't also open up to more people. So then later I prayed about it, and then it kept occurring to me that why wouldn't I come up with something that can take care of a large group of people then suddenly the Lord laid on my heart to come up with this foundation. So I then started talking to friends who were closer to me, and then I mean my bosses. When I say my bosses, my doctors. So they also saw that it's a good thing to do for the life of the patients. So for me, one thing that inspired me more was the fact that I'm going to do something to save a life.
Okay.
Yes.
So you are a physician assistant, am I right?
Yes, please.
So does that mean at the primary health facilities you are seeing some of these cases that otherwise could not have been detected?
Yes, yes. Like Franklin said, most people, most Ghanaians are walking who don't even know that they are hypertensive or they are diabetics. Before you know, it has just happened like that. I mean, they've come for clinic. It could just be a normal check, or let's say a normal thing like malaria they've come to the clinic with. Before you finish with them with some labs, you realize that their kidneys are deteriorating. So most people are walking without even knowing that they have I mean, predisposing factors to kidney failure.
Okay. So, Mr. Franklin, you said you've been at the unit for about 9 years. So tell us, what are some of the challenges patients come with? I mean, when they come for dialysis, their weekly dialysis, what are some of the challenges they present?
Okay, so, you know, the kidney is a very vital organ. And the kidney is linked to almost every other organ or system in the body. So when the kidney is affected, it really affects the whole being. So most of our patients, and as we heard Lillian, the patient saying that at first she was strong going about her business, but our business that now she is weak. Yes, most of them after some time they become weak. Now, what I have realized is that dialysis is about the care. If the patients are getting the good care and all the treatments are adequate, they tend to do well. But if the care is not adequate, then they tend to have a lot of challenges. Now, for instance, Dr. Lamte spoke about the fact that even to make blood, you need a certain hormone in your body called erythropoietin. This hormone is produced by the kidney. So now that your kidney is gone, it means that you cannot make blood. So it means that as part of their treatment, they need to be on artificial erythropoietin, and it is expensive. You see, so when they are not getting it, so that always your blood level or HB is low, and so long as your HB is low, you are very weak. So some become very weak, and they cannot do the things that they used to do very well. Yes, and then we see some to have a bone problem. Yeah, Dr. Lamde spoke about the fact that yes, at times too it affects their bones. Their bones are weak, so you can easily get fracture as a result of the accumulation of some of the waste that you have accumulated because the kidney is not able to excrete them. Yes, and the major thing is the finance. Okay, as I said, if you have the finance, you will tend to do well. Those are the units that have done dialysis for a very long time. You tend to realize that they are the people who get support. Okay, but those who are not getting the support don't tend to do well. So for me, I was very happy and glad when my brother came with the idea that so long as we are here and we are seeing all of these challenges, you're seeing our patients, and some of them, they can't eat well. If this Christmas that is coming, everybody is excited. If the patient don't have good dialysis, they can't even have appetite for food. So you see, these are all challenges. Okay, so we want people to come on board, help the clients. Personally, we've been praying for people to come on board, and some people are coming on board, and we hope that others will also, as they hear our voices and they see us, they also come on board, so that will help our patients. It's very, very important.
Okay, so Dr. Mr. Hinaku, okay, so you said because some patients couldn't pay their bills, yes, that inspired you to form this foundation. But how about access? How accessible is how accessible are the treatment centers to patients from across the country? Because I mean, in forming your foundation, you must have some hand knowledge on
Yes.
how accessible treatment is.
So formerly it was just Kolebu, and then some, I think some major hospitals, like let's say 37 even, it was just recent. So it is of late that new centers are coming up, because the sickness is becoming so much. More people have taken it upon themselves that they are now also getting into it. So we have other private centers and units as well. So I mean, yeah, some are coming up, others to I mean, let's say, sorry, we have, I mean, those regional hospitals apart from Kolebu are also coming up with centers as well. Yes, yes. So aside the private hospitals, we have other major hospitals that are also coming up with kidney, dialysis units to cater for the patients as well.
So I know one of the police hospital as well.
Yes. Range Hospital, 37, and then talk of
But those are just within the capital.
Yes.
I mean, there are patients coming from the hinterlands, as far as Boko, as far as Navrongo, as you know, from the Volta regions, from the western regions. Are there access to?
I think that is where the problem is. You know, I remember when I came to the unit, at that time it was even worse. It was worse. And my stepfather had kidney failure in that was 93, 94. And at that time, even Kolebu was not having a center. So at that time, it was a man who had some machines at Caprice. So he was on admission at Kolebu. We used to bring him to Caprice, dialyze him, and send him back before finally Kolebu had a center. But now a lot of private people are coming on board. But unfortunately, they are all concentrating in Accra. Okay? And you see, at times we see, right now, we have clients who come from far away to Kolebu for dialysis, and which is not the best. You see, that is where we will advocate that the government will come in. We need to have a system in place, make sure that we are decentralizing the kidney care to the very minimum. Because if you come, you need to be on the machine for at least 4 hours. You come, at times you come, the machine is not even ready, you have to waste your time.
Wait for your turn.
Yes. So if you have to travel, and when they finish, at times they are very weak. Okay, it takes time for them to recover before they can begin to function properly. So we should extend it to the hinterland so that everybody can benefit.
Okay. Let me announce our phone lines. I'm sure viewers at home have a story to share with us, because if you have a relative who has a chronic kidney disease, you definitely have a story to tell. Our phone lines are 0264 000997, 0264 000997. You could also join us on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. Okay, so Mr. Hinaku, we've talked about access and how inaccessible it is. Most people think that supporting people through dialysis may not be cost effective enough, but rather if you focused on how to get people receive a transplant, a kidney transplant, that is more feasible than supporting people through dialysis. Do you agree? And then does your foundation have any objective towards that?
Yes. Let me take from the first point. I do agree, I don't agree, same way. So why I don't agree is that some people prefer to do the transplant instead of being on dialysis. Others too would also go in for the dialysis and then not give in for the transplant. The reason being that transplant can fail.
Okay, so
hold
on to your thoughts. Right. We have a caller from Ibri. Hello, Nana. Good afternoon and welcome.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm calling from a widow. Yes, I was just watching the program.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask doctor that I had bladder outtract.
You had bladder what, please?
I had a bladder outtract.
Okay.
Like I had an operation on my bladder.
Okay.
Yes, and I learned I've lacked a lot of water. That even happened at 37. And my operation has been successful. I think about 5 years now. Yeah. So I wanted to ask, would it ever affect my kidney?
Okay. I will try and have Dr. Neodati Lamte come answer that. But I don't know whether, Mr. Franklin, you have any idea whether it's likely to affect her kidneys.
Yes, the issue is that when you have operations like that, definitely you need to be going for review. Okay, you don't sit in the house all. Definitely, the doctors will give you time to come for review. And if there is something or something is not right, I think it can be picked up early. Okay. Because there are people who have problem with their bladder, and then they end up with kidney failure. Okay. There are some of the men that have, excuse me to say, like prostate, and then they end up damaging their kidneys. So anything around that part can have effect on the kidney. Okay. So it's good that she has to be going for her regular reviews, and if she has any concern, I think she can report to her doctors. Okay.
So could you call us after the program, and probably we'll share doctor's contact with you, but you heard the advice. Go for regular reviews so that if there's anything, it can be easily detected. Thank you so much for your call. Yeah, you were making a point. Yeah.
So back to my second question you asked. So the main vision for Prime Life Kidney Foundation is to reach out to kidney failure patients. I mean, sustainable one, so that everybody can have a second chance. Let me say, in quote, a second chance.
So I have another caller. Okay. I'm sure they were lined up. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Your name, please.
Thank you very much for your useful discussion. My name is Anthony. I'm speaking from Mataibi.
Okay. Please share with us what you have.
Yeah. There was a man was saying that now there's so much problem on this kidney failure because the way that we cook our food using this common rubber to cover the food, and also everybody is eating from this common rubber that they are using to do everything concerning food. And this is the contribution of kidney failure nowadays, because in our old time, they eat from this bush this thing they use for cover the food on the food that contain this and also that. But now everybody is eating from this common rubber, which actually affecting it because of the chemicals that you use to manufacture that rubber. Is it true?
Okay, so that's true. I mean, wrapping hot foods with plastics we've been told are dangerous. So, I mean, as much as we can desist from it, and as much as you can stop patronizing such food vendors, the better for you, because they contain some cancer-causing properties. You were making your point, please.
So as part of our objective in regards to transplanting, now that we are a new group, that we don't have enough money, we wish to support patients in transplanting, but now what we can do for them is to advise them and then educate them on the need to do transplanting. Yes. And then also, as part of our objectives, we intend to give consistent awareness and education in schools, in churches, wherever. So, for instance, today's exactly a week today, we're going to Edukrom. You know, they are having this Odra festival. So we have a slot in there to talk to, I mean, the whole community of Edukrom on kidney disease. We've been to other churches as well to do same. So anybody who, whether in churches or any organization, you want us to come and talk to you on kidney disease, you just reach out to us, and then we'll be gladly to do that.
Okay, so we have Kwame Danso from Bono East. Hello, caller.
Yeah, my name is Moro Mohammed.
Okay.
Calling from Kwame Danso in the Bono East.
Okay, thank you.
I'm a kidney patient.
Okay.
I just had my sample September. So I'm going through the process to determine whether it's a chronic or acute. My little appeal to the government is that, in fact, the treatment is very expensive, and the drugs too is very expensive. So if government can do something about it, and even getting access to the treatment is also very difficult, because I have to travel from here to Kumasi for just a review, because there's no center around unless Kumasi has a Pofanochi. So we are appealing to government to do something about it, whether they distribute the centers to some various points so that it can be accessible, and then the treatment, the charges can come down a bit, or government can absorb prices so that we can afford. So that's what I want to see.
Thank you so much. I presume the policymakers are watching the show and will try as much as possible to forward in your appeal. I'm told you're supposed to wrap up, but I mean, much of talk and creating awareness boils down to screening. Do we have a lot of screening centers in the country?
Yes, the issue is that at the primary level, they are supposed to be screening, but at times for lack of funds or for reasons.
It's expensive screening.
So many primary caregivers don't tend to do that, because if you are seeing somebody with hypertension for a very long time and you don't screen for kidney failure, because one of the end organ damages that they may have, it's not the best, but that's what we see. At times you prescribe for them and they will say, we don't have money. But I think that we should have a policy as a nation, so that if you are seeing somebody with hypertension, it should be mandatory at some point that we do the screening.
Okay, so Mr. Hinak, you have 30 seconds to make your final words.
Okay, so before I wrap up, as part of our project in creating awareness and consistent education, we also intend to be having free screening. So this one, we are appealing to the government and then the general public that anybody who wants to come to the aid of kidney patients, for them to live again. You know, our slogan is a smile of hope, you see, so that they can live again. So I think as the caller said, the government should absorb part of the payments to make it, to ease things for them to also have life again.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Ebenezer Hinako. You are the founder, president of Prime Life Kidney Foundation. You're also a physician assistant. Thank you so much, Mr. Franklin Asari. You're a renal nurse at the renal unit of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. We were earlier on also joined by Dr. Ni Odate Lamte. He's an internist at the renal unit of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and a patient, Mrs. Lillian Agbeku. Thank you so much. My name is Sarah Fori. The call is on government to absorb the treatment cost of chronic kidney diseases, to also reduce the burden on patients and their families. Thank you so much for joining us. See you same time next week.